Thank you all for being here. I really want to congratulate these gentlemen for bringing this story. So can we please give them some love this evening? I love this island so much, and I love this festival so much for bringing us these stories that you don't often get to see on these big screens. So I've known Sam for a while and Jason for a while, and they're making incredible art, and so I'd love to see everybody supporting them. I want to first start with how did this come about? Like who were you working with? Did you just wake up one day and say, I think OGB needs me? What happened?
Pulse, the production company, approached my dad about doing a film about Old Dirty Bastard. The family had some interest in doing a film, and then my dad said, "Who's Old Dirty Bastard?" No, I'm joking.
I knew who he was, but I said,
yeah, right.
But I said to them, I'm not really the right person to be doing this. And I said, there's another young man who's related to me who I think knows this music really well. And I said, Jason.
So when my dad asked me, of course, just working with him, and then just being a big Wu-Tang fan and 90s rap fan and Old Dirty Bastard fan, of course, I said yes. And we just jumped right in. We met the family, and then Pulse got A&E involved, and away we go.
Jason, I want to talk to you a bit about your career, because it's not easy to follow a legend, and yet you did. So talk about where you started and how you've come up in film, and what kind of films you like to make now.
I mean, at first when I started, after college or during college, I thought I wanted to be into computer science. I wanted to stay as far away from film as possible because of the legend. Exactly, big shoes to fill. But I transferred to NYU, and I got it. And the more I got into film, and the more I got into editing, I really discovered a love and passion for it. And I said, okay, I really like to do this. So when I told my dad, he just put me through the paces and just got me a couple of gigs, and we just went from there. And then from him, I inherited a love just for documentaries, and then just quite frankly, films about us, films about the Black experience. That's really what I got from him. It was just that love, just telling our own stories. So those are the films I like to watch. Those are the films I like to make. Those are the films I like to work on. It's just never ending. I always learn something new about our history and us as a people. So that's what,
Sam, I wonder if you could talk to people who aren't as familiar with your career about just a little bit about where you started, because I think it's important that we know, where you started and how varied your career is. So,
I started many, many years ago, Dawn. I was in a film and television workshop at WNET back in the 70s. I got started as an apprentice editor on a film called Ganja and Hess back in 1972. And the editor on that film, named Victor Koneski, took me under his wing, and I became an editor in the 70s. And in the 80s, I was editing a lot of documentaries, and I was doing some independent features. Then I went to Eyes on the Prize, my first producing, directing gig.
This is why I want you all to know this history.
And then I met Spike in the late 80s, and I started working with him on Mo Better and Jungle Fever and Clockers. And, I always loved editing, and I wanted to direct. And I was doing both until around 2016. And I stopped editing, and I just started directing. And, like Jason, I didn't come up loving documentaries. I loved feature films. But when I got into the documentary world, the idea of telling these stories about our experience just really touched me. And it was really working with St. Clair Bourne back in 1980 that started me on that direction. So it's as I was saying to him last night we were talking, this is a tough business, but I still love it. I love it.
And I love that both of you are doing this. Jason, I wonder, what's it like to work with your father?
I mean, it's great. I mean, it's just...
No, you can tell us.
No, it's easy. It's serious. Is it tough? Yes. But
is it more pressure?
It's always more pressure. It's more pressure because I don't want to let him down and let the last name down. So it is more pressure, but it's not, I can't honestly say it's tougher than working on other doc films because, as you know, Don, it's always tough. But it's fun because I know where I get my style from. I know that, and it's good to have him look at my stuff and understand where I'm coming from, even when it doesn't work. He'll say, okay, this isn't working, but I see what you're trying to do. And, just having that ease of conversation, that ease of notes, yeah, it makes it's a breeze. I mean, was this film a breeze? No. But, again, that's just the field. So I always enjoy working with my dad. I love it.
I wonder, this is a complicated story, and this is complicated man, but beloved, and even with all of his multiple, kind of personalities, even. Talk to me, like, where did you start? Like, what do you think is so? There's a lot of Wu-Tang projects. There's a series. There's a whole film about the Wu. There's so much already. What did you want to bring out with this film in particular?
I mean, I think the goal always was to show the man behind the image. I mean, we wanted to play into the hijinks and what, some or most people know about Old Dirty Bastard and all the crazy stuff he did. But it's always trying just to dig in and to see what makes him tick, right? How did he grow up? What was he influenced by? What was he like off stage? What did the media have to do with it? All that different stuff. So that's where I really started, because I was so familiar with his music, his career, and the highlights and the lowlights. It was like, okay, what else is there to this story that can kind of fill in the blanks? So that's where I started. And I was listening to podcasts. It was reading books. There were 2 books written about him. Just doing a whole bunch of research and just really getting into it.
Sam, could you talk about when you have a film like this that has interviews, but you also have this marvelous, archival, but then also there's the music, and so how are you thinking about the balance, the interplay of all of those elements? What were you two thinking about?
Well, I knew that Jason knew this music extremely well, and I knew he would know how to sort of modulate between the music and the interviews and the archival and the personal home movie stuff, which was a real asset to have that stuff. Every editor brings their own particular rhythm and pacing to it. So I knew that was going to be his thing. He would show me cuts, and I would react, and I would say, I'm not quite sure about this or this direction. And then he would go back, and he was working with a group of young editors, and really shaping and reshaping. And, as we all know, the process of editing is not just editing, but re-editing and re-editing and re-editing until you find that rhythm and that feel. So for me, I hadn't seen it on the big screen. I'd seen only on the...
when we were coming out, he said, Sam said to his son, plays well.
Yeah.
Which I think, it's like all our greatest desires is to have, your parent say that to you, right? Plays well. So good for you saying that.
Yeah, because there's certain things, like for me, when I'm watching it tonight, I'm thinking about the emotional stuff, the family stuff. Like when he meets his wife, that kind of said, oh, that's nice. And the last sequence when he's dead, that one's like, wow. That's like, that kind of what I call Rashomon effect, which is what I kind of like in films. And Jason understood that, and he brought that out, And listen to those guys from Wu-Tang. Those guys are fantastic. They're absolutely fantastic to me.
Do you have a favorite part of the movie?
I mean, whenever Ghostface Killer talks is my favorite part. Doing an interview with him.
What were you like when you were like, Mr. Ghostface Killer, sir? Like...
I was nervous. I was kind of like that because, it's this weird thing where you don't want to tell, you don't want to tell these guys that I grew up listening to you. I'm a huge fan. They do know. You're right. They do know. So you try to keep calm and professional. But during Ghostface's interview, and there's some more funny parts that unfortunately ended up on the cutting room floor. I mean, he was just, I just felt it. The whole crew felt it, and we're laughing the whole time as he's going and telling. So any of the stories Ghostface tells, that's my favorite part.
Talk about interviewing Mariah. Talk about it in detail. I have interviewed Mariah.
Oh, really?
And so
I
want to trade notes.
I'm not doing it here. It was interesting.
How long did it take you to get that set up?
Wow, Dawn. No. You just start.
I was there, Don, for that one.
Where was the I'm just going to be relentless. Where was the interview?
Interview was in a very nice suite at the Mandarin Oriental.
And how many lighting designers did you have to use?
You know the answer to that question. I'm not answering that one either.
I know his name. But, she really opened up here. I did not actually know how close they were. I knew about their song, but I didn't really actually know, because a lot of artists work together. That doesn't mean they have that kind of relationship where she goes to pick him up out of jail.
Yeah.
That was not something I knew. So did you know that? Like, had you...
I listened to an interview she did about him and that whole process of recording the Fantasy remix. So I knew she was close, but the interesting thing about that interview is that you don't consider Mariah Carey, or I did not, a hip-hop head.
I didn't think about her really at all that way.
Yeah, she knows her stuff, and she knew the music.
Christmas special,
Right. All I want, you know the song. So she really knew and really had, the idea and the blueprint. Like as she said in the film, his voice and my voice are going to go great together, and then I'm going to direct the video to really let him shine. So that was a pleasant surprise. But she was into it, and when she agreed to do the interview, we were happy that she did.
I thought she was really very genuine. I mean, when she...
I thought she was too.
When he was... initially I thought she was going to come in and do the celebrity thing and stay 15 minutes and be gone. But then she went on and on about him. She was really, really emotional and genuine about him. I thought it was really interesting.
I think there is something to, have you done other music docs?
Yeah, my dad co-edited Pete Seeger, Power of Song.
It's a little different.
Little bit. Harry Belafonte, Sing Your Song. And then a couple other, some smaller ones. But yeah, that's the kind of rhythm thing I like with these music docs.
I really felt like, Jason, I see you in this movie. I feel like the pacing is kind of it's quick in the best way. It's modern.
Yeah.
I felt like I enjoyed the music, and you really see that the part that's so tough to watch is his mental health struggles. Just we don't talk about mental health, and I think I also felt some compassion for his friends, for the people don't know what to do or how to help, particularly when you achieve icon status. Like, I guess, what did you learn about, their relationship, like him with the rest of the group?
I mean, it was obviously complicated. They didn't know how to approach him and talk to him about his mental health issues. That's why I thought what RZA said at the end is so powerful. How do you talk to a person, to a friend, to a colleague, to a cousin, family member, about what they're going through, about self-harm. And us as black men, we don't talk about it, to ourselves. We don't get help, and we just we either try to tough it out, we try to self-medicate, and that's what I was trying to reveal about, Dirty's life, is that, he possibly could have taken some more steps. There could have been some more conversations. There could have been more interventions than just throwing him in jail and just putting, jail-mandated drugs in the system. What else could have been done? What else can be done for other people? I mean, unfortunately, he's not the only rapper that died. There's many more, and it's just sad. It's a waste of talent. It's a waste of just humanity. So it's like, what else can we do? What else can be done to help people?
Well, I think you bringing this out, this is not a part of the story that people focus on. Because he's such an artistic genius, they focus on that, and that's what we want to think about. But those things are going hand in hand. I'm going to see if anybody has questions. I don't know if we're allowed to do that, but I like to answer audience questions, so I am going to make some time. I'm just going to take over because I've got the microphone. If you have a question, or I see one up here, but if you have one, please raise your hand, and we'll take a couple of those. If okay with you? All right. So, sir.
Was there an attempt to interview anybody else except Wu-Tang Clan?
Yes, there was. Unfortunately, they turned us down. Try to get other Wu-Tang members.
Repeat the question for them.
Oh, the question was there any attempt to interview any other Wu-Tang members? And, it's a tough group to get. So we got Ray and Ghost. I wish we had gotten more, but they had turned us down.
Yes, middle there.
Yep, so very well done. Just one question. I kept waiting to to see the family receive some of the great trappings of money. Did the wife and kids, one, did they ever have anything substantial? I was looking for a house, something. And then I was wondering whether or not, after the fact, have they been taken care of even by Wu-Tang, the current members, or are they still living sort of in poverty?
Like, does she have the estate rights? Like,
A lot of tough questions tonight. The most I can say is that it's complicated. There's a fight about the royalties. Iceline did get remarried, and she's living down south in Atlanta. That was that footage you saw. There's a little bit, but not much, and that's the most I can say, honestly. If Iceline and Barson went up there, they could probably speak more to it. But, yeah, that's all.
but they're certainly not millionaires, even
No.
with one of the most successful artists. So, yeah, fascinating. Was there somebody else? I'm going to here and then here. So back there.
So what kind of discussion did you all have about the funeral scene and the death scene and showing his body in a casket? I obviously, it affects people differently. I can imagine the conversation went in both directions. And also, I noticed the cause of death was kind of assumed, but not necessarily addressed directly in terms of an accidental drug overdose with the tramadol and cocaine. So walk us through how challenging it is to really address the death, because I understand the hip hop industry, like you don't really want to go too hard. You kind of want to soft shoe it because you don't want to offend anybody. But just share your thoughts and your thought process about addressing his death and showing those images, please.
You have to be sensitive to the family. So that was the thing that we thought about. I mean, honestly, in an earlier cut of the film, the first thing we did was we showed the funeral scene first, and then we kind of went backwards into the rest of his life. And what the family and the estate said was, that's too depressing. That's taking us down a little bit too low. We want to start on a more upbeat level. The most I can say is just, it's just a sensitivity to who's watching. I watched it with the family for the first time a couple weeks ago in Miami, and it really made me feel more empathy, and I felt a little scared, did I do it the right way? And fortunately, they were appreciative of it. But it was, do I want to show too many casket shots? Not really, and I don't want to really milk it. I think the main thing with the funeral scene was RZA's speech. RZA's speech, and then Papa Wu, who was his cousin, talking outside. And it's just really playing into the emotion. And you don't want to do, kind of just tragedy porn, and that's not what we were trying to do with the sequence at all. It was just to show, the gravity of ODB's death, a little bit of humor with Raekwon, and then, then you move on.
Did you edit that scene, or?
That was actually Samantha Carr, who was my co-editor.
Because a lot of times, you have different editors doing things,
Yeah.
and it can hit you differently. I really, I was surprised at how much I appreciated. I don't know. I needed that closure with him somehow. I didn't feel like it was exploitative in any way.
Yeah.
It felt like we needed to see this living story is over.
It's over, right.
So,
and then what was the drug? You said the drug question? How he OD'd?
Yeah. Were you going to add to that, Sam? Were you?
Let him do it.
Oh, okay.
I don't remember. There wasn't much clarity. I mean, he did OD. I don't remember people actually explicitly saying it. So, we kind of just stayed away from it. I mean, I think you can kind of gather from what happened. He obviously OD'd on something. We weren't specific, though. So.
Yeah. Was there somebody here? Yeah.
It's clear Dame's role was pivotal in this story. Can you share any more about interviewing Dame?
Damon Dash. Discuss. I really, really love seeing this with you all, where you were like, Black people speak back to a movie. They were like, we know what they think.
I mean, if anybody knows Dame, seen him with Jay, seen him on social media, Dame was a lot. And it took a lot to get him. I had to give a shout out to Daphne McPherson, who knew Dame and was able to hook it up. It was funny. I was at Editor Mixer, and Daphne texts me and she says, Dame's ready to talk right now. So I had to go out the party, and I'm on a three-way call with Dame, like, yo, he's like, all right, I can do it. And then he doesn't call back, then he called back 2 months later, and we set it up. Dame had a lot to say. He had
I thought he was brave for doing it. He didn't shy away from anything, and I thought he really added a lot, with his perspective, not just the villain of, Rockefeller.
He was genuinely a fan of Wu-Tang and ODB, and like you said, he always wanted to work with them. The stuff on the cutting room floor was just, honestly, was the crazier kind of stuff that ODB got into, which, to be tasteful, I couldn't put it in. But, the stuff that we didn't use was just a lot of just the struggle that Dame had to rein him in and to kind of record new music, which I believe still isn't out yet, the album he did for Dame.
And what happened to $1 million?
I do not know. Iceland said she never saw it. I don't know.
Yeah, I really believe her. I do want to talk about the fact that you were at an editor mixer. Were you all just typing next to each other, or what is that even? What were you doing at an editor mixer?
Just a meet and greet. Other editors just complain about directors.
Did you hear that? Are there other questions out here? Nobody? Yes, back there. Sorry.
I'm just kind of curious. What did other people have to say about? I'm sorry. What did people that were interviewed have to say about Jared, and where does Jared stand in his life today?
You put him in there too.
All right, so I was telling my wife as we're screening, Jared's gonna get me. All right, so Jared, I reached out to Jared, I got his contact info. Again, I did try to get Jared into the films like the Wu-Tang members. Jared did not want to talk. Jared has a lot of issues with the state, so it is what it is. We had a lot, look, we had a couple conversations. He said his side to me. I said, well, Jared, put it on camera. Let's get you. He didn't want to do it. So, when this comes out, I'm sure he'll call me. I gotta, we're long overdue for a conversation, so we'll talk. I'm sure he won't be happy, and it is what it is. I'll tell him,
this
we try to get him in.
Yeah, that's always so hard, is you try and get people and you say to them, you're going to be in it. You should be in it the way you want to be.
Right.
And if people don't want to. Speaking of which, when is this coming out? So A&E, when did A&E come in, and how is that working with them, and what are they planning for the film?
A&E was there from the beginning. So Pulse partnered with A&E, so they were there from the very first shoot day to the final cut. It'll be on A&E August 25th on TV. It'll be streaming. Please tell everybody to come check it out. Yeah.
Great. I think we could have one or two. Okay, there's a very big question right there.
I am grappling with his mental health overall. Thank you. I understand the decline, but what I took away from this film was that ODB wasn't well from jump, it almost seemed. So do you have insight through your research about his early stages? I understand his shifting in perception about the world through his study of the 5%ers. So that was some insight. But I am kind of blown by, wow, I don't think I saw two dirties. It seemed like one dirty, and that dirty one right. So if you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, no, I think, from my research and from what I'm looking at, I say there are two dirties, especially, with the when he's introduced to the 5% Nation, and, when Raekwon talks about him being the rap professor, there was a clear definition of his lyrics, right? It was very, like I said, it was positive, it was scientific, it was all, and then honestly, what I think happened, and Raekwon didn't quite say it, but it didn't hit. It didn't quite hit. And as most artists, you got to pivot, and they pivoted to something else. Dirty, and hopefully the film tells you guys is that he was super planned. Everything was, I shouldn't say everything, but a lot of stuff was planned. You know, like when Dante tells a story about messing up the house and putting the blunts
I
on
love
the
that. I love
on the
him
ground.
styling
He's
everything.
styling.
and-
He's always thinking. I always wanted to make sure it was intention.
choosing the record cover, you know.
Right. Yeah, it was intention behind all that stuff, right? He did it on purpose. You know, he wanted to make you think he was crazy. He wanted to make you think, you know, that he was a wild card. Now the issue is and the question is, when do those two meld? When does perception become reality? That's the issue. You know, and then are there any latent mental issues that, you know, come to the forefront because of drug use, because of fame? You know, fame is a huge drug, and it changes people. We see it all the time. So I do disagree with that. I think there is a change. Was he quirky in the beginning? Sure. But was he, you know, but it's quirky. It's like he speaks different. He talks a little different, you know, but it's not like he's off. That's not what I got.
All right. So thank you all so much for coming. Please support this festival.
Thank you.
And these
Thank
wonderful
you.
filmmakers.